Hello, everyone, and hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 55 of the Short and Sweet Home Games podcast. My name is Joseph. Today is November 10th, 2020. My goodness, 2020. And I'm doing this one solo because Yazid was not feeling great this week, so we decided to let him rest and not force him to do this episode with me. So here we are. I'm not going to talk about what's up, even though there are some things. I've been playing Terminator Resistance lately. It's pretty good, but you'll have to wait till next week to hear about that, as well as the new MacBook stuff that Apple just announced today, which I thought was pretty exciting, but no one here cares, and it's also just me. So we'll talk about that next week. I'm going to talk about home game stuff, which is website redesign stuff that I've been doing over the past week, which was kind of caused by user accounts. So we'll talk about user accounts and why we're implementing them and all that kind of stuff. And also deployment methods for homegames.io as well as Pico de Gallo, which is our test demo website. Full disclosure, I did this entire episode already before this. But it was terrible. I was very nervous. My voice is shaky. I have a general discomfort with speaking to myself, especially when I know that Zenobia can probably hear me in the other room, and she knows I'm not talking to anybody. So hopefully this one turns out better. But anyway, talk about website redesign stuff is my first topic. Let me breathe. I'm still kind of nervous. So for website redesign stuff, the reasoning that I originally wanted to redesign the website was because we have this new thing with user accounts. And with user accounts, the reasoning was because we need HTTPS enabled in the browser when talking to a home games instance, which enables certain features like gamepads and webcams and microphones and stuff like that. So we needed a way to uniquely identify a person and give them a certificate that was just available for them, which we need a user account to do. So now that we have user accounts, we need a way to create them. Hopefully that all made sense. But people would typically expect you create an account on the website of the app thing, or in the app itself, but we don't have an actual application on your phone, and we don't have anything beyond, a website. So I'm adding the ability to sign up for an account on our website. And so I added this kind of top bar where, you just have a username and password field where it's a button. It's not even a button. It's just text. You have to do an on click on it, and your mouse doesn't hover. And anyway, this whole thing. But basically, now that we have the ability to create an account, you would expect the ability to log in. So I added a login button, and you have the ability to log in. And then the website says, yes, you've logged in. So yeah, you can't really do anything after that. There's no feature beyond just creating an account. We just need the ability for you to sign in and get a username out of it. But I imagine in the future, like Yazid and I have talked over the past 6 months or so, and probably longer, about achievements and other kind of things like that maybe would be associated on like a meta level of your home games experience, I suppose. So say we had some sort of multiplayer where you on home games instance A can have multiplayer or play with or whatever, or compete against someone on home games instance B, maybe in another house, maybe, wherever, people down the street, maybe whatever, across the world, maybe. But something like that where you can have a multiplayer thing, and maybe you'd want to track games that you've played with them, or maybe you'd want to have a friend list of people that you've played with before and have some sort of profile associated. There are people who like these things, and I'm not one of them, but I understand that it's a thing. So maybe in the future we have some sort of thing to have a profile or whatever. And so I think the website needs to be able to handle these kind of things. What does that whole menu look like? To change your password, to update your email address, to change your name if you wanted to have your name on there and all that kind of stuff. So because we would need all these new header, like what's the word in HTML? I believe it's called a header, part at the top that has stuff, you have like a settings gear, I imagine. What does that settings gear do? And do we have a modal? Does it have a little pop, kind of expansion thing of the top? Like, what does it look like? And all these questions. So once I started messing with that stuff, I decided I kind of wanted to mess with everything because I thought everything was maybe outdated, maybe clunky looking. Synovia was giving me some feedback that all the information seems like it's kind of all in one place. It's kind of just pasted into the center of the screen. And that's true. I mean, I built that website over the course of a year or so, And every time I wanted to add more info, I would just add another paragraph in the center of the website. I wouldn't like edit previous stuff. I wouldn't think of maybe adding a new section, none of that. I would just keep adding. So that's kind of how the website got to where it is today. It's just a long website with a bunch of text. So I'm going to try to separate out that information. I have this new tab thing where, it's tabs. There's 4 or 5 different categories of information. It's like about and I forget the other one. Oh, getting started, downloads. Basically everything that's currently an H2, a header 2 in the HTML of the current website is becoming its own section in the tabs. And so it's all very basic. I don't even have the content there yet. I just have the buttons and the general layout. The colors are not final. None of that's final, but it's all up at test.homegames.io. So if anybody has feedback, wants to give it a try, technically you can create an account right now, which is a hot new feature that is very much in development. So maybe don't create an account. I might delete it by mistake or on purpose. So yeah, I'm in the midst of this whole kind of user accounts caused website change. So now I'm going back to user accounts to finish up my certificate generation service, which, so the reason I have the certificate generation service, I'm not sure if I talked about this already on this one, if it was the previous one. Anyway, the certificate generation service is this thing where, basically a user can log in and say, I am this person, this is my username, and I don't think we will store the certificate, so I don't know if we could just retrieve it. But basically, to generate a new certificate, give it back to the user, say, keep this in your local home games directory, and this will have a certificate in it, which home games will reference and get you HTTPS and all that kind of stuff if we can. So the certificate generation service is responsible for generating certificates with Let's Encrypt to give SSL, TLS, whatever the word is, encryption for their home games instance, which will give you HTTPS and secure WebSockets and that kind of stuff, which enable certain features in the browser, which let us do the things I might have already mentioned, webcams and microphones and stuff. So we need a way to let a user log in and then create these certificates, retrieve them or receive them over a secure connection, and then have them locally for home games to access and give you, all these kinds of SSL features. So once I finish working on that and testing it and making sure that everything is working on that service side, and then also updating home games to handle that new change and look for those certificates, I also need to add some sort of method to fall back in case someone does not have those certificates, if they don't want to create an account or they don't want to do any of this stuff. I think I didn't mention that already, but the user account stuff, I don't like the idea of forcing people to have this kind of, to store their email address, and we don't store anything beyond their email address, or we don't keep a database ourselves. It's just Cognito records in AWS. So we have your email address, your username, and then your password, but all these things are stored in Amazon, and I think your password is not stored as your password. It's some fancy security thing. I don't know, but we don't store that information in our databases. And I think even people maybe wouldn't want to even opt into the just Cognito thing and say, I don't want to make a user account. I don't want to give you my email address, and that's totally okay. The reason that we need that stuff is for more features available in the browser. So I feel like a lot of games maybe, or actually I have no idea. I don't know what most people would use, what features most people would put in their games. But if it's any of the stuff I had mentioned, that stuff wouldn't be available without having the person running the home games instance have an account on home games. So I also think some of the people who would want that middle or that just that level of an account would also not want the other stuff. They're like, I'm not interested in a profile, so you don't need my name. I'm not interested in a friend list. I'm not interested in achievements, which is totally reasonable. I think that person should be able to say, yeah, don't create that for me. Just create the account for the certificate generation and the management and that kind of stuff, and I don't care about anything else. So in that case, we still wouldn't store anything in a database for that person. We would just have, like I said, the Cognito record. If someone wanted to have something like a profile, we would likely need to create a database record for that person to have something like user preferences, username, like their actual name. I don't know why we would, but I imagine that's like a thing in profiles. I really have no idea. But my point is that we would need some way to store information for something like a profile to exist, or something like achievements to exist within the home games kind of platform. So yeah, we would need a record of that if we wanted to do that. But I understand some people wouldn't want that, so we would just create the user record, not the actual user profile. But that's kind of my current thinking on accounts. Like I said, still need to test everything, create everything, like make sure everything is implemented correctly. And once I do that, I'll go back to the website redesign. And I imagine this stuff will take me the rest of the year. Probably about 2 months sounds about right. The certificate service is almost finished in implementation. I just need to kind of finish automating. There's a script that's run, and I need to capture the output of that script in an automated way. But once I do that, it'll be pretty much done. And then I just need to test it and then roll it out, whatever that means. However I decide on deploying all this stuff. And then that'll be that. So yeah, all while that stuff is happening, the website redesign, I guess, will technically be in progress. So if anybody has feedback or anything like that on the website, test.homegames.io, where you can look at that current version again, not final anything, like nothing on that is done. So that's just where that's at. So my last thing I wanted to talk about was how I deploy homegames.io and Pico.io, which is the public demo of Home Games. So at the moment, these things are all their own instances, just EC2 instances that I SSH into and run the node, process and just start a web server, which is not a super scalable or sustainable method of deploying these services. If one day we get like 50,000 views on, like, from Reddit or something, that instance probably wouldn't be able to handle that traffic. It would fall over and we would lose a pretty good opportunity of a lot of traffic, which is not good. So I have some familiarity with Amazon ECS. So ECS is Elastic Container Service, and essentially what it allows you to do is build the Docker images. Well, it doesn't allow you to do that. You just build your Docker images. You provide them to Amazon, and then you can say, I want 1 or 2 or however many instances of this thing running, and I want these resources allocated to it. And I have, maybe several of these things, and I want you to manage the actual instances behind them. I just want this many running. And so ECS will kind of just make sure that whenever one dies or whatever, it'll restart it, and you get logs from all these from all your containers and stuff like that. So it seems like a pretty good way, pretty sustainable way to deploy our website and stuff like that. I think in the past few months, Yazid and I have talked about getting logs from Pico.io dying. When it crashes, that's our demo thing. When our demo stuff crashes, not really having a way to figure out what went wrong. So for in that situation, ECS would actually fix the 2 problems, which are one, that it went down. I mean, it wouldn't fix that. It would create another one after the fact. But basically, Pico.io would be up after this outage. And then the other thing we would get logs from Docker, which I guess go into some other Amazon thing, which we would then be able to read to see why the demo died, which would be pretty useful. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to use ECS for the deployment stuff for that. There was a time I was thinking of using Lambda for the homegames.io website. I don't really know why. I guess just because Lambdas are super cheap, and I thought we don't really get a lot of traffic on that thing, so I don't need to be running an EC2 instance. But I think running it in Lambda would be more trouble than it's worth. So I just thought it'd be cool, but I don't really know why. Anyway, ECS is probably going to be what I'm going to do for that. So for Song of the Week this week, realized I had to do the music there. Song of the Week this week is All Along by Kid Cudi. So it's a special week because yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of Men on the Moon 2, which is one of my favorite Kid Cudi albums for sure, but one of my favorite albums ever. I was a sad, lonely, weirdo teenager when that came out, and I'm basically still inside the same person. So not a lot of progression on my side, but the album has aged very well. So anyway, All Along by Kid Cudi. Happy 10-year anniversary to Man on the Moon 2. Also, that game, or that album came out on the same day as Black Ops, the original. I remember because I stood in midnight release line or whatever waiting for Black Ops 1 at a Best Buy with my mom. That was a pretty cool experience. So anyway, shout out to Black Ops 1, 10 years also, which is pretty crazy because new Black Ops comes out on Friday. And I pre-ordered that, so I'll tell you how that is next week. But anyway, that's going to do it for me this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We are on Twitter at homegames.io. We are on the internet at the website homegames.io. Our music was done by our friend Tynan at Nightan on Bandcamp, Nytan. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.